Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here this morning as we get set up to discuss some Oilers points after 5 games before we get to this afternoon's 1 o'clock action against the Detroit Red Wings in a game in which the Oilers desperately need a win after dropping the last 2 in the New York area against the Islanders and the Devils. For right now though, friends, if you are new to the channel, I'd consider hitting that subscribe button on Dolynny TV simply to stay up to date already. Hey, like seriously, we're already 5 games into the season, going into game 6 today. Yes, I understand we're going to have a 3.5 week break in the middle of February, which will kind of derail all this progress into the season we're making, but just saying, we're going to be moving along here right quick as the season carries on. Tuesday in Ottawa. All right, what do we got? Let's get to the meat and potatoes of today's video. So far, the ice times for the big boys looking pretty heavy, as I'll tell you. Nuge is at 19 minutes if you're wondering what that bottom caption is all about. But McDavid at 23:50. You've got Draisaitl at 23:22. Bouchard at 25:17. You know, usually these guys, not necessarily way drastically lower ice time historically. McDavid's usually high 22s. Draisaitl's usually mid 22s. So you're talking a difference of about a minute. I'm not sitting here talking like, oh my God, Knobloch's overplaying them into the ground. But again, you're also not getting the results that 23.5 or 24 minutes a night should with these guys be producing, considering McDavid is still goalless. And you got Bouchard with 25:17. I'm sorry, no matter how much Bouchard is of value on that right side because of the injury to Regula and the injury to Wallman, there is no reason, and I know we're getting cooked with the other two out there right now, but there is no reason Bouchard should be looking at 25:17 by the end of this month. When you get those other two guys back, there's absolutely no reason for Bouchard to even be up over 22, at least at the end of October. Nuge, what about him? Like I said, he's the only other forward over 16 minutes. Everybody else is, I think the highest is 15.5 minutes on the ice. That's forwards. Defensemen, we've had some other guys play more, but that's where we're at right now. Is we have only 3 forwards that are playing more than 16 minutes a night. You wonder why nobody's getting anything done. They're not getting an opportunity to get it done. I mean, Ike Howard's down below 10 minutes. Matt Savoy's kind of juggling around there in the lower teens. Like, I'd love to say that the question marks around the rookies were warranted, but they're not getting an opportunity to shine here. And the Oilers are just outdoing themselves, really, by every single move they've made to start the year. I mean, the first 2 games looked like, holy crap, they've got it figured out. They're going to get this going. And all of a sudden now you're 5 games in, and that's what your ice time allotment looks like. And it's a problem every single year, and it's a problem again this year. So special teams, right? The promise changes. We're going to see a second power play unit getting more time. Well, last night against New Jersey, when the game no longer mattered after the turnover on the power play when it was 2-1, yeah, sure, they started getting more time. But the problem is, like, that's why Draisaitl and McDavid are playing so much, is they're still going out there and pretty much running the power play for a minute 50 every single chance they get. So that's the problem. It's really having a negative effect more than the positive effect as expected, and it's been brutal because, again, you also have Draisaitl and McDavid out there on the penalty kill, and when they're out there killing penalties, that's chewing up ice time. And you're seeing the effects, like they're getting maybe a scoring chance once every 2 games. Like, I know they kind of had that opportunity there against the Devils last night, but again, what they do with it, McDavid still does not have a goal. So it's not like he's doing anything great with that time. And I'm not trying to come down on McDavid. I'm just saying, like, we don't need to be complaining about the whole roster if we aren't going to give the whole roster any time to work, and that's kind of where we find ourselves, right? So the goalies themselves, Stu, having an incredible start in 3 games, not looking bad at all. 197 goals against average, 921 save percentage. Again, you can get into the fancy stats all you want. Anytime you see Stu with these numbers, the Oilers will be winning a majority of the games. The only reason Stu has 2 losses and not 3 wins is because the Oilers offense is sputtering. So make that what you will. Picks, well, he's got it at 254 goal against average. and as well an 865 save percentage that game against New Jersey, where he got really no help from anybody. Doesn't help much at all, and well, you're hoping that he rebounds and kind of has that after a rough game, Stuart Skinner shutout performance the next time out. So, right, it's only 5 games. Hard to overreact, hard not to overreact, given what we've seen out of the Oilers thus far. But it's kind of leaving us after a few losses in a row, a bitter taste in our mouth when we know this Oilers team, no matter what the changes, no matter what the rest of the roster looks like, McDavid, Nuge, Draisaitl, all are capable of more. Is Zach Hyman. Everybody's complaining about the difference Jake Wallman would make here. Nobody's sitting here saying Zach Hyman would have this team at 5-0, and I guarantee you Zach Hyman would have this team at 5-0. No disrespect to David Tomashek, who's one of the few players actually with points, it feels like, but at the same rate here, you have Zach Hyman on that power play over the past 5 games, which, again, Chris Knobloch says, even into that New York Islanders game till the last power play of the game, it was doing all right through 4.5 games. Well, if you had Zach Hyman, I guarantee you things would look much better. But ifs and buts aren't going to win you a Stanley Cup. You got to go out there and perform night in, night out. And for some reason, the Oilers still are not getting the job done without him. So that's kind of where we leave ourselves. But to the line shuffling, all right? This is one thing I want to discuss right here, right now, is I want to throw a joke at it because I have no other explanation for it at this point. Chris Knobloch should know better, but for some reason he isn't doing better. And it is very reminiscent of one Dave Tippett. Yeah, Dave Tippett wearing a Chris Knobloch mask and bringing out the archaic blender to get the lines going and figuring out who's going to play with McDavid? Who's going to score a goal? Come on, you're up. Yeah, it's not working for Chris Knobloch. So, yeah, we got to stop with that. We got to concrete some stuff down here against Detroit, and we got to actually start having success. And I know they were talking about it if you watched Hockey Night in Canada, the nightcap last night against Calgary and Vegas. They were talking about how Ryan Huska's the king of it, and he's got this golden touch, and it's like, Why are we so proud of teams shuffling the lines every 5 seconds as soon as the first shift doesn't produce a goal? Oh my God, we got to blender the lines because we're not producing enough offense. It seems to me like, I don't know, we have too many advanced analytics or not enough advanced analytics, or teams just don't care. They just make their own decision that doesn't actually benefit anything. It's just, and that's the way you go. And that seems to be what the trend is here to start the year for the Oilers. And I'm hoping Chris Knobloch will stop shuffling things up, right? Kasperi Kapanen, Leon Draisaitl, and Vasily Podkolzin started showing some promise yesterday. Yeah, sure, maybe no finish, but at the same rate too, somebody eventually is going to finish. That's just the Oilers' way of doing things. So the more consistency you give some guys, maybe the opportunity they're looking for will arise. So friends, that's a little quick recap after 5 games here. For right now though, I am up on out of here.